All right, welcome everyone to this Executive Explainer. Listen, if you're a real estate investor with your eyes firmly on the Central Valley right now, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're breaking down the absolute latest Fresno market data for May 2026. Our goal? To give you the tactical, data-driven briefing you need to confidently navigate this landscape. It is literally the multi-million-dollar question we're hearing every single day. Are homes actually selling in Fresno in 2026? Now, it sounds like a totally simple question, right? But the answer, and honestly the nuances behind that answer, form the core intelligence every single local investor needs to accurately position their capital today. Okay, let's dive straight into this. We're tackling 4 things today. First, the national market context. Second, Fresno sales momentum. Third, inventory and market pace. And finally, Fresno versus the nation. All right, starting with Section 1, the national market context, or what I like to call the post-pandemic hangover. To really get Fresno, we have to establish the broader macroeconomic backdrop. Right now, an overarching stagnation is characterizing the broader U.S. housing market. We're still dealing with a hangover from those ultra-low mortgage rates during the pandemic, Sellers who locked in those amazing rates simply don't want to move. Add in consistently high prices and just general economic uncertainty, and well, you've got a recipe for scared consumers. This dynamic has essentially pushed national home sales down to hover near 30-year lows. But, and this is a critical thread for us to pull on, because buyers are desperately searching for affordability, we're seeing a distinct migration toward lower-cost areas. Keep that specific dynamic in your back pocket as we zoom in on Fresno. Now, what's really interesting is how things change locally. Section 2. Fresno sales momentum. We are actually seeing a surge in buyer activity. Here's where the local data completely diverges. 562 homes sold in Fresno this past May. That represents a nearly 11% year-over-year jump in closed deals. So while the rest of the country kind of feels stuck in the mud, Fresno is pushing strong, double-digit growth in transaction volume. And you know what? That momentum absolutely isn't stopping with past closings. Pending sales are sitting at 689. That's a massive 13.8% increase year over year. For us, this signals incredibly strong ongoing market velocity for the coming months. Buyers are active and contracts are getting signed at a blistering pace compared to last year. Plus, here's something that directly impacts your margins. Nearly a third of the homes selling in Fresno, 29.2% to be exact, are still closing above their original list price. That's up slightly by 1/10 of a percentage point from last year. As an investor, this tells you loud and clear that, despite those wider economic fears, competitive buyer friction definitely still exists here. If a home is well priced and desirable, it's still generating bidding wars. But wait, there is a pivot we have to examine. Section 3, inventory and market pace. It is undeniably a slower moving market. Right now, active listings sit at 2,506. That is a 12.5% increase in total available properties year over year. So yes, while buyer demand and closed sales are definitely up, the total supply of homes just sitting on the market is rising right alongside it. We're accumulating inventory at a very healthy clip. And this brilliantly illustrates the friction I'm talking about. Look at median days on market. Last May, homes were pending in about a month, just 30 days. Fast forward to May 2026, and that median time on market has stretched out to 54 days. That is a massive 24-day year-over-year jump. Homes are absolutely selling like we established, but the overall market is moving significantly slower from listing to contract. So here is an absolutely critical yield indicator for your portfolio. Exactly half of all inventory, 49.9%, is currently stagnating past the 2-month mark. That represents a full 3 percentage point increase in stale inventory compared to last year. The takeaway? If your property isn't priced perfectly, or if it isn't renovated to exactly what the modern Fresno buyer is demanding, you are going to be sitting on your capital for months. Let's move to the final piece and see how this all builds together. Section 4, Fresno versus the nation. This is the ultimate comparison. So the crucial point is right here when we put these metrics side by side. Nationally, home sales are up a modest 5.2%. Fresno? Double that at 10.8%. Pending sales nationally are up 4.5%. Fresno is essentially tripling that velocity at 13.8%. But listen closely to the inventory side of the equation. National active listings barely budged, up less than 1%, while Fresno's jumped 12.5%. And days on market? The nation only slowed down by 3 days, whereas Fresno stalled out by an additional 24 days. Basically, Fresno is moving significantly faster in raw sales volume, driven by that desperate search for affordability, but it's stalling much, much harder when it comes to inventory age. Which brings us to the ultimate question for your portfolio. We are looking at a highly localized market defined by a real paradox. Rising sales, but significantly slower pacing. You've got buyers eager for affordability, actively fueling transaction volume, but you also have an accumulating inventory that's drastically extending hold times. So, how will you play the Fresno market? Are you going to bank on the competitive bidding for top-tier properties? Or will you need to rigorously factor longer days on market into your carrying costs? It's a market of distinctly mixed signals right now, and the investors who digest and adapt to this specific data, they're the ones who are going to come out on top. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep analyzing those numbers.